The Doctor DMD had a few words to say about MJF, and it didn't make him feel like Britt Baker in Pittsburgh. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Wrestling, and there's news coming out that Britt Baker has actually been suspended, and that is why she was missing a period of time in AEW, and it all comes from an altercation that she had with MJF regarding things she was saying about MJF in the locker room. Now, we have stories from Fightful, and we also have stories from Dave Meltzer. Now, we're going to just quickly go over what Dave Meltzer said first, because Dave Meltzer pretty much doesn't have a clue what he's talking about, so I'd rather get his shite out of the way first, and then we will focus more on Fightful, who definitely seem more of a reliable source. So basically, it all started with Britt Baker saying negative stuff about MJF in the women's locker room. Obviously, MJF's girlfriend, Alicia Atout, is in the AEW women's locker room. She then went and touted, I guess, pun intended, on Britt Baker to MJF, and this made MJF legitimately upset to the point where he went and actually confronted Britt Baker in the women's locker room or changing room or dressing room or whatever they call it these days. Now, Meltzer is saying the following. He says, quote, "It came from something backstage at 717 Dynamite where Baker allegedly said something about MJF and Alicia Atout. MJF's girlfriend heard it and told him, and he confronted Baker. This led to an investigation with HR talking to people on 7/24, and I believe the disciplinary committee that did the investigation recommended that." End of quote. So, I mean, that's all that Meltzer had to say regarding the situation, but, I mean, Meltzer, he's a guy that pretends to be in the know, but he's probably in the least amount of know compared to all the wrestling dirt sheets. However, Fightful have noted something, the following about the incident. Quote, "The details are he said, she said at this point, but we're told that the confrontations between Alicia Atout and Britt Baker, as well as MJF and Baker, at one point Will Ospreay also spoke with Baker. Word was Baker also took issue with Alicia Atout telling MJF what was said in the women's locker room." End of quote. Fightful are also claiming that MJF punched a wall after things escalated during the incident, and it is expected that Britt Baker will still wrestle Mercedes Moné at the pay-per-view. Now, Britt Baker got suspended and MJF did not. Like I said, MJF managed to avoid suspension despite him actually going into the women's locker room and confronting Britt Baker. Britt Baker reportedly does not want Alicia Atout in the women's locker room anymore after she went and basically told MJF what was happening in there. Britt Baker believes what happens in the women's locker room should stay in the women's locker room. And then, of course, MJF punching walls and, entering the women's locker room isn't exactly a good sign either. Now, the suspension was reportedly brief. I believe she missed a week of TV or maybe 2 weeks of TV, so I'm guessing that's how long it was for. 7 days, 14 days. That would explain why she wasn't on Dynamite last time out, so that to me makes sense. And according to reports from Fightful Select, MJF took the extraordinary step of entering the women's locker room to confront the issue directly. This move, while controversial, was part of the incidents reviewed during the investigation. Despite differing perspectives on the matter, the investigation, which included interviews with multiple witnesses, concluded with the decision to suspend Britt Baker, but not MJF. The decision has raised questions about the consistency and fairness of disciplinary actions within AEW. Fans and industry leaders alike are calling for professionalism and stability, especially as the organization aims to focus on delivering top-tier wrestling entertainment without the distraction of backstage drama. So, is it fair that Britt Baker got suspended and MJF didn't? Britt Baker had things to say about MJF, obviously, but it's a free world. If she doesn't like MJF or she disagrees with something MJF has said, then I think she's entitled to voice her opinion. It looks like to me the one that's crossed the line is MJF. He's the guy entering private female spaces, and he's the guy that is reportedly punching walls backstage. Now, MJF was also at CMLL, and he had his US title, or whatever they're calling it these days, with him, and he tweeted on Twitter, he says, quote, "The whole world is talking about the American Champion's debut in CMLL, representing our great nation. Hashtag thank me later." End of quote. Which then Ricky Stark replied to the guy who appears to want fired. He says, quote, "I think they're talking about you and Britt, to be honest." End of quote. And that seems to have got a lot of likes. However, Ricky Stark since then has deleted that tweet that he replied to MJF in. So this seems like a mess. What's your thoughts here? Basically, MJF confronted Britt Baker after Alicia Tout heard Britt talking shit about MJF. MJF punched the wall. MJF went into the women's locker room. MJF didn't get suspended. Britt did. Ricky Starks, I guess, seems to be maybe not taking Britt's side, but he's calling out MJF anyway, basically saying, you're claiming the whole world's talking about you in AEW, but they're not. The only thing they care about is, this incident between you and Britt. So this is a dig by Ricky Starks at MJF. What's your whole thoughts on the matter?
I think they're all kind of wrong. I think you look at it right. I think there's numerous things to dissect. Should Britt Baker have said it to MJF's face? Potentially. We don't know what it is, so for that severity of the... it could have been something like anti-Semitic, could have been something to do with Israel, could have been something to do with his promo he cut.
Yeah, maybe she just said, I thought that was a shite promo.
Yeah. As for...
Or she could have said she believes she's a better promo than MJF.
I think she has a bit of a card, the way she's like, oh, what we say in the women's locker room should stay in here. You try to tell me she's never told fucking Adam Cole something someone said in the women's locker room? Load of shite. Again, should Alicia Tout go touting?
Is it really touting them?
Yeah, but I think the problem is it's her actual boyfriend, husband-to-be.
Yo, who hasn't? See if you're going... Who hasn't passed on information that they've heard somewhere else?
No, of course.
Every single person in the world's done that.
No, but what does Britt Baker expect if she said this with this Alicia Tout person in the presence of her? Right? And then, let's go on to MJF. I think this is embarrassing for him. Storming in and punching a hole in the fucking wall, allegedly, and confronting Britt Baker. The comment must have been bad for him to do that, but that's not a good look.
Is it though? MJF's pretty insecure. I think it could have been. I think it could have been a throwaway comment, and he'd still take it bad.
Yeah, but that just sums up MJF. He talks a good game in his promos, like buries the crowd for being a bunch of losers. He sounds like the biggest fucking loser of them all.
Big question: do you think Tony Khan can air this to get over 800,000 viewers on next week's Dynamite?
I think he'll fucking try, to be honest. But
even if they don't have the footage, they should recreate this scene, recreate it, and air it. And they might get back over the 800k mark.
No, you know what? I think MJF's a fucking little bitch. I think he's a loser, right? I'm not one to defend women's wrestling, but it seems like he's went in here to have a go at Britt Baker. But if it was like, a Billy Gunn or a Jeff Jarrett, or Jericho, I think his fucking arse would collapse out his trousers.
Possibly.
No, he's the same prick. I was just a little Jew boy, and you, Willie, you didn't give me the chance. He's a fucking... No, I actually can't stand him.
What do you think of Ricky Starks basically calling it, saying that nobody cares about you being the champ? Everyone's just talking about the incident with you and Britt and then deleting the tweet.
No, I think that's pathetic. I think everything is pathetic here. No, but I've always thought this about MJF. He talks a good game in his promos, but then he half the time, like when he cuts feet, like the whole thing with Adam Cole, him fucking running around their kitchen on scooters and shit. Or did he not want Alicia Tout and Britt Baker discussing that? Who knows what it was, but you know what? This company's full of little fucking nerds.
Nerds is
It's because, you know what? See,
what Gallows would say, nerd.
Weak leadership trickles down through the top. See if they feared Tony Khan, none of this shit would be going on.
Yeah, that is true. So, interesting though that Britt Baker got suspended and MJF did not. So,
but that tells me what Britt Baker did, what she said, has to outweigh him barging in and punching a hole in the wall.
All that tells me is MJF's feud is a bigger star. And you can get away with more. That's all that tells me.
Well, yeah. That's playing devil's advocate here. That's what it tells me as well. But Yeah, I think it's pathetic for pretty much everybody involved. But you're right, Tony Khan will probably make an angle out of this. I don't think anyone comes out of it. If Ricky Starks didn't
Yo,
delete his tweet,
I think he should. Tony Khan's desperate. He fucking should make an angle out of this.
if Ricky Stark didn't delete his tweet, I'd have said fair play, but he did. Like, I'm sick of wrestlers. They're all fucking losers, man.
See if you can't stand by what you say, then there's no point posting it.
Aye.
You mean you could tweet the greatest, you could say the greatest thing ever, make the greatest statement. See if you retract it, then you know it is what it is. It was pointless.
Austin316 says I just deleted my tweet.
Anyway, guys, that's it. Let me know your thoughts down below. Bit of a mess here, so that probably explains why Britt Baker was missing, because she did go missing for like 2 Dynamites there. I guess that makes sense. So, is what it is. Catch you guys in the next one. Till then, peace.